Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Wherever this video finds you, welcome to Tix. And I know y'all been waiting on this. I've been trying to get my Browns video done, but man, it seems like every day that franchise just gets dumber and dumber. Anyway, so before we get into this, I want to say, let me get so much of this. Because during the Obama administration, all right, you had black people getting shot by the police for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and in between meal snacks. And in the midst of that, what we were told by a white society, as all of this was going on and we were complaining and everything, because Obama was very, very useless. I mean, he gave us body cams, but he didn't throw anybody in prison. We were told at the time to just comply. You all old enough to remember that? During the Obama administration, where pretty much those police body cams were snuff films. Meanwhile, Obama having a beer summit with Cobb, the one that arrested Skip Gates, which, in all honesty, I think was a staged photo op. Y'all remember that? And then shortly after that, Obama sat down with the cop that arrested Skip Gates, him and Joe Biden, and they had a beer summit. They sat out on, lawn furniture, the big umbrella out on the White House lawn, and we didn't hear a word that they were saying. And then shortly after that, it was open season on black folks. It seems it went from like at least maybe one every other week to once a week to damn near 3 times a week, where somebody black was getting shot or brutalized by a cop, usually white. That went on for a good 8 years. I mean, it kind of tapered down during his second term. I think the Dylan Roof incident really kind of slowed it up, where Obama sat up there in that church and sang a Negro spiritual for those 9 slain victims. But yet he didn't do anything concerning police brutality. It wasn't until Donald Trump came in when the snuff films came with punishment. And then, of course, we got the George Floyd situation. And that's when we had the defund the police situation, to which we pretty much became a lawless society, because you were able to steal anything that was under $1,000 and you would get a literal slap on the wrist, just a ticket to appear, and your court appearance wasn't until like years later or whatnot, if they even bothered to charge you at all. Businesses started to close, which means people lost their jobs. Homelessness skyrocketed. White women took care of themselves through DEI initiatives, gave black women government jobs, crumbs. Meanwhile, they got the executive jobs. And along the way, we lost a healthy respect for law enforcement. We did. We lost a healthy respect for law enforcement. I mean, the videos that I used to do on the Embrace Villainy channel, while I was watching black people act a stone cold fool. I mean, don't get you wrong, there was some white people in there too, but it was mainly us. It was sad. It was ridiculous to watch. Heartbreaking. And they can scene. I used to have to take breaks. At any rate, a healthy respect of law and order was lost. I was out at the collectibles at the convention center this Saturday, and I was sitting down, and two brothers was talking about this shooting, and I told them, I said, the best way to avoid getting shot by a federal agent is to mind your own damn business. Go sit down somewhere. Don't get in their face. Stay home. Why are you out there protesting the deportations of criminal illegals that are pedos, rapists, murderers, drug and human traffickers, and all out thieves? I don't care. Like, do you understand the effect that illegal immigration has on you as a black man? I was like, you're not high IQ. I mean, I didn't say it like that, but I'm just saying, like, dude, I was like, who do you think gets those warehouse jobs and those roofing and construction jobs? I mean, look, you can't even order anything from Uber Eats or even grab an Uber without a non-English speaking person pulling up. Yeah, those are your black jobs. When Trump said black jobs, that's what he was talking about. Because, when you're $54,000 of annual income in America, we've been over this, you're at the very bottom of the economic ladder. And Dr. Claude Anderson told you back in the 90s and again in the 2000s, look, illegal immigration, period. But illegal immigration, you will go from the majority minority to just the minority almost overnight. And that's exactly where we're sitting right now. But you want to get out here and protest and yell and scream at federal agents who are trying to get these people out of the country. So that way you, as an American citizen, can have a better shot at life. Not just the job market, but with housing, food costs, gas. Overcrowding causes inflation. So the guy looked at me because I had my sheriff hat on, and he gonna say to me, "Oh, you work for the police?" I said, "No, I respect the rule of law." And him and his buddy looked at me like, I said that I slept with their mamas. And I get it. You have been trained your whole life to hate law enforcement. That's why you fight for criminals so hard. The whole didn't do nothing. I mean, they put that on a t-shirt. Not us. They did. We was kings. Because you don't seem to get it. Operating outside the law is not good for you, be it individually or collectively. But because you were raised like that, you feel that disrespecting authority is okay. But yet, I bring this up to say this. Oh, what's up? What's up, Detroit? So I say that to say, because I said to the guy, I said, let me ask you something. I said, if somebody comes into your house and disrespects it, what happens to them? What happens when they don't follow your rule of law in your house? Be it your wife, your girlfriend, your kids, your grandmama, your mama, whatever. What do you do? You make them understand that this is the rule of law. Respect it, right? Up no news. You tell them to respect it. Respect the rules of your house. Like, yeah, well, this is the federal government's house. The United States, this is the federal government's house. If you don't respect their rule of law, they got a nice gray bar motel for you to sit your butt down in from a day to a few years to forever and a day. What one comedian said, dude got double, triple life. That means if he had to die, he had to come back and serve 4 more years. And now what you're starting to see, you're getting ready to start seeing a healthy return for the respect for the rule of law. When you lose a healthy respect for law enforcement, this whole ICE situation happens. You've been shooting at them. You've been throwing rocks and bricks at them. And now that they're blowing your brains out, all of a sudden now you want to clutch pearls. Make that make sense. Okay, now Trump is making Canada an independent first state. They couldn't agree more to it, and it helps for the midterms. You know what? Let me get to this. Speaking of the midterms, let me get to this fool. Nice segue.
Well, the data. I mean, just like look at the data. What they are reacting to was getting their butt kicked in elections in November, where Democratic candidates. I was at the swearing in of our former colleague Abigail Spanberger, who became the governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia. Democratic candidates around the country, not just New Jersey and Virginia, but in the South, in Georgia, in Mississippi, had electoral success because they were talking about real issues. They were talking about affordability. They were talking about making life easier for people. And Republicans see that. And so now they react. But the American people also understand exactly what happened. This is the policy of Donald Trump that they have supported by not pushing back on tariffs. It is only going to get worse when all of the healthcare cuts and the nutrition cuts come into place around this country. It is going to be hurtful to the American public. They are going to have a tougher time finding healthcare, finding affordable healthcare for them and their families as a result of the big ugly bill. And so we're confident that when people fill out their taxes this year, as well as when they use some of these amazing programs, that they're going to see this and they're going to have an ability to exercise their opinion later in November.
This dude was talking about Democratic strongholds. As far as Georgia is concerned, he's talking about Raphael Warnock, who had a runoff with Herschel Walker. CTE mind damaged Herschel Walker. He had a runoff with Herschel Walker. Nobody in their right mind would vote for Herschel Walker. This dude pull out this goofy bag, somehow he's a sheriff, and he's not. You had a runoff with Herschel Walker simply because the Republicans really didn't even give a damn about the county down here in Georgia. You guys got your butts kicked. That's why you don't have the House nor the Senate. And you think you're going to win it now? Ooh, you think you're going to win it coming up? This dude, these people are delusional. And they weren't talking about issues. The only thing they was talking about was free, and illegals and cutting off your kids' sex organs. Say now, according to statistics of economic, they aren't pleased with Trump is running things there. And then, but European is giving French ass kissers to USA because Canada is dealing with China. Oh my goodness. Let's get on with this, shall we? Just to close out opening, y'all told us to comply. Well, because you won't comply, now you understand exactly what. There you go. Take your own advice. Comply. This Alex dude, they got shot. Yeah, matter of fact, hold on. Before we get to it, yeah, let me show y'all this. Let me show y'all. Before we get to this. Because somebody circled him. That's him. Right over here. Now keep in mind. He in the middle of the street. Dude, go sit down. The ice station comes to get them out of the street. She didn't want to get out of the street. This was her over here. I'm not going to film this too much, but this was her right here in the middle of the street. Get out of the street. You would not. You don't. Well, did he comply? He did after he got popped. But this is her in the middle of the street. You directing traffic, blowing whistles. Will you get out the way? We're chasing. You don't know who we're going after. You act like we going after some Consuela working in a bakery somewhere. We're going after murderers, sex traffickers, rapists, pedos. And here you are making a whole scene. For what? Why are you in? If the I swear to God, this needs to happen. When they go and do this, when ICE go to arrest one of these people, not one of these, but one of the targeted people that are on their list, I really do hope and pray that them and their friends just open fire and that ICE avoids any damage, but they just take out some of these idiots, these paid agitators. I hope they get shot. I hope they kill it. I hope at least 20 of them feel the burn. I hope at least 20 of them feel the burn. I had to retract that. Oh, 20 of them feel the burn so they can understand just how dangerous these operations really are while they all in the way. But anyway, so the ICE agent goes to move her out the way.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
To the point where he comes in and pushes an ICE agent, and then boom. So now they're getting maced. And he's in the middle of it all, trying to prevent her from getting arrested while armed.
Fuck people. The fuck is wrong
And now
with
he's
you?
fighting, resisting arrest. He's resisting arrest. So is she. And now, from what we understand about the shots, right? They disarmed him at this point, and the gun went off because he got one of them cheap guns that has one of those triggers that'll go off by itself. If you are a real gun owner, you wouldn't get one of these guns. So when he got disarmed, the gun discharged, and these guns are known for discharging. They're like that $200 shotgun that sex offender pretending to be a Black Panther, that cheap shotgun he has. He bought one of them cheap little 9mm, and he had 2 clips. And you out here getting in the face of law enforcement. What were you going to do with that gun, sir? Why are you getting involved in ICE operations, federal agents who are real cops? They have more authority. They have more authority than sheriffs. Tim Walz, Jacob Frey, and anybody else talking about they're not real cops. The hell you mean by that? Because they not eating coffee and donuts and chasing purse snatchers? No, they handle the people that you can't. He had a camera in his hand, but he had a gun on his waist. When they took the gun off his waist, that's when the gun went off. So he was disarmed, but in the scuffle, when they said gun, and they took one of the agents took the gun away, the gun discharged by accident because it's one of those cheap guns. And so that's when they lit him up because they had a split-second decision to make. And they lit him up. But come to find out, he was part of these ICE agitators.
This is a somber day. We had another ICE documenter responder murdered yesterday in Minneapolis. We are grappling.
Yeah, he was already part of one of these ICE watch people, which will expose after. Because, look, man, these people they don't know anything about guns. They run out here, they go to the thrift store or the pawn shop or a gun shop, and they just buy something that look pretty. And in all honesty, usually what a salesman will do at some of these gun shops, they'll just try to unload. They'll look at you, they'll ask you, well, what's your budget? Well, I only have $200. So here's a cheap little, we'll sell this to you at a discount. This gun that's got so much dust on it, and it looked like it's growing a gray beard, growing a gray Fu Manchu beard. Here. Yeah, we'll sell it to you, $200 on the nose. That's the daggone Ghostbusters gun. Yeah, so they sell you that cheap gun. Just like, Sex Predator Panther. They saw that cheap shotgun gun, a little $200 shotgun gun. Don't nobody with any sense would buy. It's just to look intimidating, but it doesn't do any real damage. Before we get to the press conference, wait, I got to show y'all this. She got this hand right here. She grabbed an incendiary device. They say she got shot in the hand with non-lethal ammo for terrorizing officers in Minneapolis, screaming for a medic. But that's not what happened. She picked up a flashbang grenade. She picked up a you see it in her hand right here, but she picked it up with this hand, and it went off. It went off, so here she is running with it in that hand, screaming for a medic.
Medic.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Keep in mind, these are the people that think that they're going to win a civil war. These people think they're going to win a second. First off, you didn't win the first Civil War. Let me get this. Let me say this. Let me say this. I'm dead serious when I say this. You didn't win the first Civil War. You lost. Matter of fact, let me get up here. You lost. You lost the first Civil War because all you had was, as Rhett Butler said, cotton, slaves, and arrogance. Didn't have a candy factory in the whole South. Let me read it word for word. I want to make sure. Let's see here. Come on. There's goofy parents. Huh. What he said. Mr. O'Hara said, it's time we let them, the Northerners, know we keep our slaves. We're the sovereign state of Georgia, and we'll keep it by force of arms. We got to fight. There is no other way. The matter is simple. The Yankees can't fight, and we can. Don't you agree with us, Mr. Butler? I think it's hard winning a fight with words, gentlemen. What do you mean? I mean, there's not a cannon factory in the whole South. What does that mean to a gentleman? I'm afraid it would mean a great deal to a lot of gentlemen. Are you saying that the Yankees can lick us? No, I'm not hinting. I'm saying very plainly, the Yankees are better equipped than us. They have factories, coal mines, a fleet that can bottle up our harbors and starve us to death. All we got is cotton, slaves, and arrogance. The extreme left wing, what do they have as an army? Instead of cotton, slaves, and arrogance, they got soy boys, lesbians, and diabetes. You can't even run 25 feet without either falling over, getting a cramp, or getting winded, or spraining your ankle. You know nothing of firearms. You know nothing of guerrilla warfare. You know nothing about urban terrain. You have no access to ammo, let alone proper weaponry. And you have no army. There's not enough of you hoes. What you got? A bunch of soy boy whites, a bunch of fat, blue-haired, whale-faced lesbians with bull rings in their noses, and some slaves, black slaves. But it's not enough, because outside of the federal government, what you will, if it actually do be like declared, civil war. Let me tell you exactly what you're going up against just besides the federal government. You've got the extreme right wing, just the right wing, moderate right wing. You've got centralist right wingers. You've got centralists, who you could call independents. You've got center lefts, and you've got moderate lefts. Oh, and also, you will also have to go up against white supremacists, or what you call, white supremacists. Because I understand those hate groups, like the KKK and whatnot, they're Democrats. They're on the liberal side of the playing field. But guess what? They're not going to risk their lives for illegals. They hate them just as much as they hate us. They hate them even more. Especially because you think they don't know about all the fraud and all of this stuff going on? You think they don't watch Nick Shirley? We watch Nick Shirley. We all sat up there and watched them videos. The whole world watched them videos. You think they not hip to it too? You think that they just hate the Negras and that's it? They hate you too. As far as they're concerned, you're part of a Jewish conspiracy to take down America. They are God-fearing American country boys with, American flags flying all over the place. Just so you know, they're not on your side. You're outnumbered. You're out-weaponized. Hell, you're just out-healthed. You will lose badly. You will be 0-2 in the Civil War playoffs. That is if it even comes to that, right? You got CEI, DEA, FBI, Navy SEALs, Homeland Security, UPM, CES, Marines, Proud Boys. You got the Boy Scouts. You got the Easter Bunnies. There's not enough of you. There's not enough of you. And these investigations have actually shown us that the Democratic Party is a criminal organization. We'll let Donald Trump and the federal government handle that, But don't let push come to shove. You got a lot of people out here that will gladly assist. They'll gladly help out. Don't be mistaken. If things go tits up, you will fail. And it won't take years. It'll be over within 6 months or less. I know y'all keep dragging it out. But I'm telling you right now, it won't last that long. Yeah, SEAL Team 1 and 2, which bunch of guys out there like that. SEAL Teams 1 and 2 will be like that guy that was at the Olympics doing the marksman competition. he got his gun sideways, eating a sandwich, just bow, and then went home to his cat. Oh my God. Let's get to it. I mean, I just find all of this ridiculous. These liberal extremists are ridiculous. It ain't enough dumb, silly, slave-minded Negroes that's going to help you. A lot of these fools don't even have guns. They just run their mouth. And a lot of them are women or they're effeminate, just like the liberal white male. Effeminate, useless eaters. Just like the liberal white male, just like the liberal white female. You're the useless eater crowd of America. Now, and I'm gonna tell you right now, you think that you can spot who's a conservative black male or conservative black female, so therefore they'll be easy pickings. I hate to tell you this, but not all of them look like Brian Donald. They go from Brian Donald to Lil Wayne. You'd be surprised at how many brothers out here that y'all call mop heads are actually conservatives or just common sensors. Easily to just walk right, man, ain't gotta sneak, just walk right up on you. Oh, look, there's a black guy. He's probably on our team. Hello, black man. We're gonna go and hit that federal stronghold. Oh, are you? Are you now? Mess around there. Get John Wick up in there. All right, let's get to it.
Good afternoon, Jackie. Thank you for that. Thanks for coming in on a snow day for the rest of the government in the country. And as much of the country feels the impacts of that winter storm, President Trump continues to monitor the situation closely, and he has remained in constant contact with FEMA and emergency responders. President Trump also quickly approved 12 federal emergency disaster declarations within 24 hours for the states of Arkansas, Georgia, Indiana, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, Mississippi, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Virginia, and West Virginia, enabling these states to access critical federal resources to supplement their response efforts if needed. These declarations will help state-led efforts of turning power back on, clearing roads for emergency services, and keeping communities safe. The White House will continue to correspond directly with governors and local officials in the coming days, especially in those states that were harshly impacted by this storm. I would also like to address the chaotic scenes in Minnesota over the weekend. Nobody in the White House, including President Trump, wants to see people getting hurt or killed in America's streets. This includes Renee Good, Alex Preddy, the brave men and women of federal law enforcement, and the many Americans who have been victimized at the hands of illegal alien criminals. Saturday's shooting remains under active investigation by Homeland Security Investigations and the FBI. The Customs and Border Protection is also conducting their own internal review. As President Trump said yesterday, the administration is reviewing everything with respect to the shooting, and we will let that investigation play out. But let's be clear about the circumstances which led to that moment on Saturday. This tragedy occurred as a result of a deliberate and hostile resistance by Democrat leaders in Minnesota. For weeks, Governor Walz and the Mayor Jacob Fry and other elected Democrats were spreading lies about federal law enforcement officers who are risking their lives daily to remove the worst criminal illegal aliens from our streets: murderers, rapists, pedophiles, human traffickers, and gang members. Governor Walz and Mayor Fry have shamefully blocked local and state police from cooperating with ICE, actively inhibiting efforts to arrest violent criminals. They have also used their platforms to encourage left-wing agitators to stalk, record, confront, and obstruct federal officers who are just trying to lawfully perform their duties, which has created dangerous situations threatening both these officers and the general public and Minnesotans alike. This is precisely what unfolded in Minneapolis on Saturday morning. Obstructing federal law enforcement and inciting violence against officers is wrong and illegal. This used to be a universally accepted position in the United States. Amid the hysteria, we must remember how we got here to this moment today and what this Democrat opposition is about. Former President Joe Biden and the Democrats opened America's borders for 4 years, inviting tens of millions of illegal aliens from all over the world to flood into our country. Among them, violent criminals who terrorized American communities and have inflicted devastating, permanent pain and harm on law-abiding Americans and their families. Yet we never saw outrage from Democrats or their allies in the liberal media over these horrifying crimes against U.S. citizens. The pain of American angel families was ignored and dismissed because it undermined the Democrat narrative. Innocent Americans like Jocelyn Nungray, Laken Riley, and Rachel Morin are just a few of the many victims savagely murdered by illegal alien criminals. Earlier this month, an illegal alien from Mexico with a long criminal history who came into our country under Joe Biden's administration threw a baseball-sized stone at a school bus carrying children in New Jersey and fractured the skull of an 8-year-old innocent child. President Trump promised accountability to these American families by securing the border, deporting every illegal alien who has committed crimes, especially and most importantly, violent crimes. Nearly 80 million Americans voted for him to deliver on that very promise, and he is. As the duly elected president, the president is fulfilling the will of the people by arresting and removing these threats from our country in cities from Los Angeles to New York, and yes, Minneapolis. Yet Democrat leaders in Minnesota with sanctuary city policies have actively defied federal immigration law and the will of the people. And as a result of that defiance, 2 Minnesotans have now tragically lost their lives on the streets of Tim Walz's state. It is President Trump's hope and wish and demand for the resistance and chaos to end today. That's why President Trump spoke with Governor Walz directly this morning, and he has outlined a clear and simple path to restoring law and order in Minnesota. Number 1, Governor Walz, Mayor Fry, and all Democrat leaders should turn over all criminal illegal aliens currently incarcerated in their prisons and jails to federal authorities, along with any illegal aliens with active warrants or known criminal histories for immediate deportation. Number 2, state and local law enforcement must agree to turn over all illegal aliens who are arrested by local police. And then thirdly, local police must assist federal law enforcement in apprehending and detaining illegal aliens who are wanted for crimes, especially violent crimes. If Governor Walz and Mayor Fry implement these common sense cooperative measures that I will add have already been implemented in nearly every single other state across the country, Customs and Border Patrol will not be needed to support ICE on the ground in Minnesota. ICE and local law enforcement can peacefully work together, as they are effectively doing in so many other states and jurisdictions. Additionally, President Trump is calling on the United States Congress to immediately pass legislation ending sanctuary cities once and for all. American cities should be safe sanctuaries for law-abiding citizens only, not for dangerous illegal alien criminals who broke our nation's laws and do not belong here. We hope Governor Walz will do the right thing and continue to work with President Trump to keep the American people safe following their call this morning. Americans overwhelmingly want exactly what President Trump is delivering: strong borders and strict immigration enforcement against the worst illegal aliens, of which there are still hundreds of thousands to deport from the interior of our country. The most peaceful way to carry out this vital public safety mission is for Republicans and Democrats to do it together, and for state and local law enforcement to work together with federal law enforcement. We want to let cops be cops. You wouldn't know this continues to be a very popular policy position from the biased media coverage over the course of the last few days, but polling shows huge support for this exact thing President Trump is calling for. More than 80% of Americans favor deporting illegal aliens convicted of violent crimes. A country unable to deport criminals who enter it illegally is no country at all. The open borders agenda of Kamala Harris, Tim Walz, and the Democrats was already on the ballot on November 5th, 2024, and it was resoundingly rejected. President Trump will never back down from his promise to deport violent criminal illegal aliens and make America safe again, and he welcomes all cooperation in that effort. With that, I will answer your questions. And Jordan Conradson, why don't you kick us off today? Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Caroline. Jordan Conradson from Gateway Fund. I have a few questions. First, with respect to the shooting in Minneapolis, we're seeing that.
I think this guy, I think he might be a YouTuber. Of course, we got our boxer Kara. Now that I think about it, I think this chick works for Lydell TV just like Kara does. I know there's a pretty white girl. She's kind of thick. She, nice thick. I think this might be her. And of course, she got these boots on. Her shoe game be terrible with her outfits. And here she is being terrible. And of course, no Caitlin Collins over here. I guess she's like, why bother showing up if they don't call on me? I don't want to get embarrassed. All right, so let's go.
Massive outrage from mainstream media and the left, but I'm just wondering, where was that outrage when Ashley Babbitt, an Air Force veteran, was executed by Capitol Police Officer Michael Byrd, who she posed no threat to in the U.S. Capitol?
Well, you raised a very important point, which I also believe that I just raised as well in those opening remarks, in that there has no doubt been selective outrage by the liberal biased media in picking and choosing victims and highlighting their stories. And as I've said, President Trump does not want any Americans to lose their lives in the streets of America and in American communities across the country. He believes what happened on Saturday is a tragedy, but every life is equal to President Trump, and that's why the lives of Laken Riley and Jocelyn Nungray continue to matter to him and be an utmost priority to him to this very day. And it's unfortunate that we did not see the same type of sensationalist media coverage over the tragic deaths of those innocent American women and girls across the country as we are in the wake of this tragedy that took place on Saturday. Gabe. Sure, go ahead.
I want to get your response to this. The Arizona Attorney General, just days before this shooting in Minneapolis, she seemingly encouraged rioters to go out, shoot, and kill ICE agents. And I'll quote her here. She said, "If you reasonably believe your life's in danger and you're in the house or in your car or on your property, you can defend yourself with lethal force." And she said that you can't tell if ICE agents are law enforcement or imposters, and it becomes an issue of whether you reasonably believe they were law enforcement. Do you have a response to that, and does the White House believe that she should be held accountable for?
Well, such dangerous rhetoric, as I pointed out, is exactly what has brought us to this position today, where you have elected Democrat officials across the country who are encouraging left-wing agitators and crazy people to go out and unlawfully obstruct lawful immigration enforcement. Again, these brave men and women of ICE and Border Patrol and the federal enforcement are just trying to do their jobs to enforce our nation's immigration laws and to go after the worst of the worst in this country. I would encourage everyone in this room, and I would encourage the Arizona Attorney General to look at the video of an ICE agent in Minneapolis. He was approached by left-wing agitators who were honking their horns and were screaming slurs at him. And he rolled down his window and he said, "What are you doing? I am out here trying to catch a child predator, somebody who has convicted crimes against an innocent child, and you are trying to obstruct me from doing my job." This rhetoric against ICE, comparing them to Nazi Gestapo, Donald Trump's police force, is despicable, it is shameful, and it is precisely what has has led to the escalation of tensions in Minneapolis and in other places across the country.
Then arrest them. Inciting violence is a crime. And you're letting government officials skirt the lines and do this. Why? Why? Because they're government officials? You literally have the FBI knocking on people's doors who are threatening to shoot ICE agents, but yet you get somebody, a government official, a mayor, a governor, tell people, you know, in a not so veiled way to attack federal agents, and you do nothing but sit up here and run your mouths. Why? If you're so sure and so caring about the American people, then you would do your I know it's not on her. It's on Bondi. You would do your goddamn job. I'm sick of seeing Bondi on Fox News talking tough and finger wagging, but yet no. Who's been arrested besides them two BLM morons and that white wackadoo? Who? Kim Higbee got a whole signal check of these people who, here's a screenshot of the active dispatch call. It's always active, as well as the shift change. You can see folks are changing their emojis, clocking in and out. I've also attached below a video of dispatch actually tracking the vehicle I was in, claiming that we were confirmed ICE. They constantly misidentify vehicles. Pay attention to emojis tagged on plate checks. These are people's plate numbers.
Plates with the coexist sticker on the back. We're on Irving and Lake Street, going north on Irving. We seem to be the only commuters following. Just wanted to give an update on our location.
Thank you. Do you have anyone in the car with you?
Yes, I do.
Lovely. Thank you.
And we are getting a photo sent to the chat for confirmation.
What's up on Sunday?
This is John 612. That we are at Grand and Lake. We're heading toward Irving. We can try and join you.
Thank you, John 612.
This is the ICE track.
Hey, this is Lokito. I'm getting some messages from the WhatsApp group that they're driving around on 28, 29 Pleasant and Pillsbury Avenue. If you want to swing by there first, I'm making my way down that way as well. I am on Lake and Park.
I'll relay to the Spanish chat, relay to the Uptown Whittier.
Higher.
Thanks, Erin.
That Ford just great Ford just passed
On the car. But
It's 29th and Pleasant. Erin's relaying to Uptown, but Lokito, if you could head there, if you're up for heading there and you're only a minute or two out, that'd be great.
This is a federal crime. This is what Pam Bondi was on Fox News, as usual, talking about this app. Why is this app still operational? Why is this app still operational? He posted this 2 days ago. And then, of course, like he said, they thought that he was ICE. Here's the confrontation.
5 observers are...
White Chevy Silverado with the newly changed plates with the coexist.
There you go.
We're not ICE. Why are you guys following us? And they leave like right when we get out of the car. We're not ICE. We're not ICE. We're following them because they were following us.
No, you look suspicious as fuck.
Wait. So should people follow and harass any suspicious-looking person?
Get out of here.
Why are you guys following us? We're not ICE.
Oh, and not ICE. Not in a nice vehicle, right?
No.
Right. Get in your truck and get the fuck out.
Why?
Because you need to go. Confirmed ICE.
We're not ICE.
Yeah, same to the people that you're abducting. Get out.
We're not because we're being followed. They're following us, and they came up. We didn't even know they were following us until they came up and said, we've been following you, reporter, independent
Go
journalist.
report something.
Okay.
Go to the airport.
We don't want people following
Go to
us
the airport.
and hurting us when we get
They're
home.
not going to hurt you. They're
They
going to
think
stay
we're us.
right behind you. They're going
Yeah,
to stay right
all the
behind
way
you.
back to where we're staying, right?
Great.
Yeah, no, we don't want that. Why we're Americans. Why are we being forced out of a neighborhood? We're reporters.
We have Americans being detained.
We're not
assaulted
detaining
by
anybody.
People who are claiming to be federal agents.
We're
right?
not claiming that.
So you can tell we're a little bit on edge.
That's fine, but it doesn't give you the right
Yeah.
to run people out of town.
Yeah. So why are you here though? I mean,
We're
Are you
reporters.
going to join the protest against
We
ICE?
are reporters.
You're reporters with who?
I'm an independent journalist. I sell my footage.
What's your handle?
What's my handle?
Yeah,
I sell my footage.
Really? Yeah, you're
Yes.
pretty established.
I sell my
Where are your
footage.
press credentials?
I have them in my pocket. I showed them
Do you have
repeatedly.
press credentials?
Yes, they're in my pocket.
Who are you? Who are you to be talking to me like that, bro? Like, man, if you don't go sit your goofy ass. Right, they think this is a rainbow video game, Rainbow Six or Splinter Cell. White crime is interesting. Ooh, but this is, I mean, these people are psychotic. These people are psychotic. And you have leaders telling them to do this. And you do nothing. You do nothing. All you do is get on Fox News and finger wag and call yourself talking tough while baking some damn cookies.
Gabe, go ahead.
For justifying violence.
I would defer you to the Department of Justice on that.
Thank you, Caroline. Regarding Minnesota, on Saturday, the Department of Homeland Security posted that Preddy looks like he wanted to do maximum damage and massacre law enforcement. Stephen Miller on Saturday posted that, or called Preddy a would-be assassin. Why did administration officials jump to conclusions before an investigation had even been conducted?
Well, look, this has obviously been a very fluid and fast-moving situation throughout the weekend. As for President Trump, whom I speak for, he has said that he wants to let the investigation continue and let the facts lead in this case.
With regards to the deployment of Tom Homan to Minneapolis, should the deployment of Mr. Homan to Minneapolis be seen as a sign that the president is dissatisfied with how the officials on the ground had handled the incident?
No, Mr. Homan is doing an exceptional job, and he has been working with Secretary Noem and President Trump over the course of the last year. Secretary Noem still has the utmost confidence and trust of the President of the United States, and she's continuing to oversee the entire Department of Homeland Security and all of the immigration enforcement that's taking place across the whole entire country. Of course, Secretary Noem is also in charge of FEMA, and we are in the wake of a brutal winter storm where hundreds of thousands of Americans have been impacted by that. So Borders Czar Homan is in a unique position to drop everything and go to Minnesota to continue having these productive conversations with state and local officials. And I know that he's catching a plane in just a few hours to do just that at the request of the president. Jennifer.
On Saturday's shooting, has the president been briefed and have you been briefed on specific details of the shooting? How many shots were fired? How many guns discharged? And I mean, did the protesters' gun go off or only the officers' guns? Do you have any of those details?
Again, the investigation is continuing, Jennifer, and we will let the facts lead and we will let the facts play out. In this investigation, I do know that HSI and FBI are conducting interviews with those that were involved and the agents who were involved in this unfortunate tragedy on Saturday.
Are they keeping the president up to date on all those details?
The president is obviously very much on the ball with respect to this investigation. I think he's made that quite clear with the various statements that you've seen him put out, and also the 4 points that the president has outlined as well to Governor Walz, and to encourage him to cooperate with ICE and with the administration. Mary.
Thanks, Caroline. To follow on Gabe's question, Secretary Noem said Alex Preddy committed an act of domestic terrorism. Stephen Miller labeled Preddy a domestic terrorist. Does the president agree with them?
Look, as I've said, I have not heard the president characterize Mr. Preddy in that way. However, I have heard the president say he wants to let the facts and the investigation lead itself.
Was he alarmed to hear his top officials referring to him in that way, rushing to that judgment?
Danny, go ahead.
Thanks, Caroline. On Stephen Miller's comments, will Stephen Miller be apologising to the family of Alex Pretty for calling him quotes, an assassin who tried to murder federal agents, despite the fact that, as you say, this is still under investigation?
Look, again, this incident remains under investigation, and nobody here at the White House, including the President of the United States, wants to see Americans hurt or killed and losing their lives in American streets. And we mourn for the parents. As a mother myself, of course, I cannot imagine the loss of life, especially losing one's child. And that same empathy from the President goes for the parents of angel families, and parents of victims of illegal alien crime across our country as well. And that's exactly why the President continues to be wholeheartedly committed to deporting the worst of the worst criminals from our country. Why don't we go to the back? Kelly.
Does the President believe that the killing, though, was a mistake? Has he expressed that at all?
Again, the President has said, we have to review it, and this investigation needs to continue, and he's letting the facts of the investigation lead itself.
Body camera footage to be released to the public? Now,
that's not something I've heard the President commit to, so I won't do that from the podium. Sure.
Caroline, how serious is the administration taking allegations that local and state officials in Minnesota are actively coordinating with demonstrators through encrypted or non-encrypted communications, as well as providing government resources to impede immigration enforcement operations?
I'm sorry, Carrie, could you repeat your question?
How serious is the administration taking allegations that local and state Minnesota officials are communicating with demonstrators to basically impede immigration officials?
Well, we've definitely seen active organization amongst these left-wing groups, Carrie, and it is something that I know the FBI and the Department of Justice are looking into. Again, it is illegal to unlawfully obstruct lawful immigration enforcement in this country. And these agitators are making it nearly impossible for ICE to do their jobs and for federal law enforcement to carry out the will of the American people to deport the worst of the worst. I would just encourage everyone to please imagine in this room, all of you come to the White House every day to report on the President of the United States and the administration. You come into this briefing room, you walk through the gates of the White House. Just imagine if there were left-wing agitators or agitators of any kind who were in your face, who were doxing you, who were harassing you, who were physically threatening you, who were biting off your fingers. In the case of two Border Patrol agents we saw this past weekend in Minneapolis, that would make it very difficult for you to show up and do your job here at the White House every single day. That's what these officers in Minneapolis are facing. That's why the President is calling on Governor Walz and Mayor Frey for these three very simple and common sense points of cooperation so that ICE and local law enforcement can work together. Again, we are just asking for police to be police. And if you ask any law enforcement agent or official, they want to be able to work with their federal counterparts at the state and local level and vice versa.
Caroline. Thanks a lot, Caroline. Two questions. One is looking forward. The role of Mr. Homan. Is he being sent by the President to diffuse the situation that exists right now on the ground? Is he the point person essentially for the White House in terms of trying to tamp down the tensions that exist right now in Minnesota?
Well, Mr. Homan is the point person for cooperating with state and local authorities and corresponding with them, again, to achieve this level of cooperation to subdue the chaos on the streets of Minneapolis. And I would just point out that Mr. Homan is someone who has been lauded for many, many decades for his experience working in law enforcement. In fact, this is a Washington Post headline from 9 years ago, 2016. Meet the man the White House has honored for deporting illegal immigrants. And I would remind everyone in this room that it was former President Barack Hussein Obama who awarded a medal to Mr. Homan. So he's obviously very qualified. He has the full trust and faith of the president. He will continue to have these meetings in the hopes that ICE and local law enforcement can cooperate and work together to have successful immigration enforcement, as we've seen in almost every other state across the country.
And secondly, Caroline, can you talk a little bit about tomorrow's trip by the President to Iowa, what the purpose of that trip is, what the goals of that trip are?
Sure, yes. Tomorrow, President Trump will be traveling to Des Moines, Iowa. He will be making a local visit at a local business, and then he will be giving a speech on affordability and on the economy. And I know he very much looks forward to being there, to meeting with the great people of Iowa, but also lawmakers as well. Jake.
Caroline, a couple quick questions. First, does the President remain fully confident in Kristi Noem's ability to lead the DHS?
Yes.
And then just secondly, just on that Wall Street Journal reporting that we saw yesterday, the president said at some point that the immigration enforcement officers would leave Minneapolis. Did the Saturday killing of Alex Preddy expedite that withdrawal at all?
No.
To your first question, the answer is yes. He still has confidence and trust in Secretary Noem. To the second question, I would point you back to what I said earlier. If Governor Walz and Mayor Frey implement these common sense cooperative measures, CBP will no longer be needed to support ICE on the ground in Minnesota. ICE and local law enforcement will peacefully work together, as they are effectively doing in so many other states and jurisdictions, to remove violent criminals from American neighborhoods across the country.
To ask the president to remove the immigration enforcement officers?
He asked the president to scale down, and the president reiterated what the president put out in his statement yesterday and what I'm sharing with all of you as well. I would just add on this level of cooperation a few statistics that I think are very important. 7 of the top 10 safest cities in the United States cooperate with ICE. And we've seen historic turnaround in safety in cities that have chosen to cooperate with ICE, that are not just led by Republicans, but also look right here in Washington, D.C. We had a great level of cooperation with Mayor Bowser and the local government, and we have been able to remove thousands of illegal aliens from the District of Columbia, where you all live, so you can thank President Trump for that. The murder rate in Washington, D.C. has plummeted as a result. There were no riots, there were no protests, nobody was tragically killed as a result of that level of cooperation between federal and local authorities. And again, that's all the president is asking for in Minnesota. It's totally common sense. Jared, go ahead.
Thank you. Karoline, in this process, you continue to describe the situation in Minneapolis as chaos. Was there any mistake made by Secretary Noem that led the president to send Mr. Holman there?
I'm sorry, I don't understand your question. Did Secretary Noem make a mistake which led to...
She made any mistake that could lead the president to send Mr. Holman to Minneapolis?
No, as I already mentioned, Mr. Holman has been working alongside Secretary Noem and for the president over the course of the last year. And again, he's uniquely positioned to hop on a flight to Minnesota today to continue this correspondence with state and local authorities, and that's what he's going to be doing. Fran.
I mean, he's the top guy. He's the top guy. So yeah, it's the situation is almost it was untenable. You see what they're doing? They're harassing people. You know what I'm saying? Getting plates wrong. You're gonna mess around there and you're gonna pull over the wrong person, and you're gonna get yourself hurt. Not everybody is nice. You're gonna pull up, y'all gonna harass the wrong person, follow the wrong person, and they're gonna get out and they're gonna do some damage to you and your crowd. And it'll be your fault.
Karoline, is it the White House's position that Americans have the right to show up to these ICE operations and film, document, or protest the law enforcement actions?
All Americans have a First Amendment constitutional right, of course, but Americans do not have a constitutional right to impede and obstruct lawful immigration enforcement operations. That is actually a crime, and it's something that we've seen taking place in the streets of Minneapolis, which again is leading to these dangerous circumstances that these federal law enforcement officers have been forced to work within.
With respect to the call with Governor Walz this morning, the president described it as respectful. He said, we seem to be on a similar wavelength, but you had strong criticism for the governor and the Minneapolis mayor, Jacob Frey, just now. So could you explain the difference in tone between what the president had said in his True Social post and I think some of the criticisms that you just levied from the podium?
Fran, I think the criticisms that I laid out, I'm painting the picture for all of you in this room, are what led to the moment that we are in today, where Governor Walz and President Trump are having a conversation, a constructive and productive conversation to end the chaos and the lawlessness that has taken place in Governor Walz's state. Elena.
Thank you. I had a question. With Holman now going to Minnesota, is Gregory Bovino also going to remain in Minnesota overseeing these ICE operations?
Mr. Bovino is a wonderful man and he's a great professional. He is going to very much continue to lead Customs and Border Patrol throughout and across the country. Mr. Holman will be the main point of contact on the ground in Minneapolis.
And to follow up, given what we've heard from several Trump administration officials, people like Stephen Miller, as people point out, calling him a domestic terrorist, Bovino saying that Preddy was out to massacre law enforcement. Why not require ICE agents to wear body cameras to clear up some of the disputes that we are hearing from witnesses and video footage versus what the administration has been saying?
Well, that's a policy question that I know the policy folks in the building are having with members on Capitol Hill, and I'll leave it to them and the president to make that decision.
And my final question is on, you were talking about the level of cooperation that the president talked about with Governor Walz. Will the administration commit to cooperating with local officials on this investigation into Alex Preddy?
The president spoke about this with Governor Walz and said he would have a discussion about it. He did not make a commitment, and so therefore I won't make that commitment here. I would just remind all of you in the media, because I've seen a lack of reporting on this fact, there are investigations into what took place on Saturday. The Homeland Security investigations and the FBI have teamed up for an investigation, and there's also an internal CBP investigation, an internal review of what is happening on the ground in Minnesota. The president supports those investigations, and as I've said repeatedly, he wants to see them move forward. Phil.
FBI Director Kash Patel said in a Sunday interview, quote, "You cannot bring a firearm loaded with multiple magazines to any sort of protest." Does the president believe the Second Amendment rights remain in effect even when protesting?
The president supports the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding American citizens. Absolutely. There has been no greater supporter or defender of the right to bear arms than President Donald J. Trump. So while Americans have a constitutional right to bear arms, Americans do not have a constitutional right to impede lawful immigration enforcement operations. And any gun owner knows that when you are carrying a weapon, when you are bearing arms and you are confronted by law enforcement, you are raising the assumption of risk and the risk of force being used against you. And again, that's unfortunately what took place on Saturday.
Yeah, they teach you when you get your CCW license. When dealing with law enforcement, first thing you do is inform them. Tell them where the location of it is and everything. And if they ask for your CCW license, you give it to them. In fact, I mean, just as a cautionary tale, when you get pulled over by the cops, whether you got a weapon on you or not, the cops they normally let you sit in that car for about a good 2 to 5 minutes before they approach the window. Common sense should tell you in that time, grab your license, your insurance, and possibly your registration if they ask for it, and have that ready to go in your left hand. So when they come up, and here you go, officer, right here. So there's no need for you to be digging in your purse, digging in your center console, digging in your glove box. You know, for those of y'all who still scared the police gonna kill you because you breathe wrong, have it already ready to go. What you sitting there? What you pull me over for? And then now you gotta go through all this rigmarole. Just have it ready. Ask him when you get there why he's doing stuff. Make it easier on you. But you know, y'all grown. I can't tell y'all nothing. But yeah, when they tell you have your seat, stay out of law enforcement's way. There's no way you should be getting into a tussle with law enforcement, with you being anti-law enforcement, with a gun on you, thinking that, you know, they not gonna do anything to you. You got an Alex thing coming.
Will his mission continue to be focusing on illegal immigrants with a criminal history, or will it be on illegal?
I think, is this that chick from the black chick right here? Is this the chick from Africa that Trump was talking about? Gee, they kind of resemble each other, but I don't think so. But they resemble each other.
Immigration generally.
Mr. Homan will continue to enforce our nation's immigration laws, especially deporting the worst of the worst criminals in Minnesota who have committed violent offenses. And I would just remind all of you that this important work is continuing to be carried out. In just the last few days, I'm happy to provide this packet to anyone in the room. ICE has arrested multiple violent criminals, illegal aliens within Minnesota. Many of them have convictions for assault, driving under the influence, fraud. This individual here I'm looking at was an aggravated felon with multiple convictions for larceny, fraud, and forgery of checks, vehicle theft, drug possession, domestic assault, inflicting bodily harm on another, criminal convictions of larceny, identity theft, again, charged with driving under the influence. These are extremely dangerous people who Governor Walz and Mayor Frey have allowed to roam on their streets, and all the president is asking for is cooperation to arrest individuals like this and deport them from the United States of America. I'll take a couple more. Go ahead.
Okay, so this weekend the president posted that this is a cover-up of the fraud in the state of Minnesota. He also posted Minnesota is a cover-up. These both happened after the shooting. So given that these came after the shooting, what is the this here? What is the cover-up he's alleged?
Yes, it's a good question. I spoke with the president about this at length. What the president is referring to is the fact that you have Governor Walz and again the mayor who have been encouraging these left-wing agitators to come out and to harass and to dox and to threaten ICE and to make this conversation about and smear lies about federal law enforcement who again are just trying to do their jobs in an attempt to distract from the widespread massive fraud that has taken place in their state. Billions and billions of dollars has been stolen from law-abiding taxpayers in Minnesota, and the administration continues to be very focused on getting to the bottom of it, and especially, and the president raised a good question over the weekend with respect to Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, who now has a net worth within the millions, and one must ask themselves, why and how is that possible? Is she connected to the fraud rings that we have seen taking place within her state and her own district? It's a question the American people are raising, and the president believes it's one worth answering. Haley.
Thanks, Caroline. I want to go back to some of the comments from Stephen Miller and Secretary No. You've made clear the president wants to see the investigation play out. When answering some of the questions on the specific details, is he concerned that some of those definitive statements made by other officials risks public perception of the credibility of those investigations now playing out?
Again, the president believes that these investigations are credible, they are continuing, they are active, and he wants to let them play out. Alex.
Caroline, thank you. Is the administration willing to separate DHS funding from other funding bills in order to avoid a broader shutdown?
Look, at this point, the White House supports the bipartisan work that was done to advance the bipartisan appropriations package, and we want to see that passed. Policy discussions on immigration in Minnesota are happening. Look, the president is leading those discussions as evidenced by his correspondence with Governor Walz this morning, but that should not be at the expense of government funding for the American people, which would include, as you know, Alex, FEMA funding, and we are in the midst of the storm that took place over the weekend, and many Americans are still being impacted by that. So we absolutely do not want to see that funding lapse, and we want the Senate to move forward with passing the bipartisan appropriations package that was negotiated on a bipartisan basis.
Secondly, there's another round of Russia-Ukraine talks this weekend, Sunday. If you can walk us through with the president, how he'll be involved in that, if at all. We'll be talking to President Putin, President Zelensky ahead of those meetings.
I'm not tracking any scheduled calls at this point in time. However, the president remains deeply involved, and of course, he's being apprised by his advisors, namely Jared Kushner and Special Envoy Witkoff, on these talks. They had a multilateral meeting this past weekend, which didn't get a ton of coverage, but that was historic in nature, where the president's team has really brought two sides of this war to the table together to move the ball closer towards peace. So the president is not giving up on the peace process. He obviously just met with President Zelensky when we were in Davos, Switzerland, but I'm not tracking any calls scheduled for this week. On one more foreign policy point, I will point out, as you all saw, the last remaining body of the hostages, Israeli hostages in Gaza, has been returned. This is a huge foreign policy feat for the President of the United States, for the State of Israel, and frankly, for the whole world. The President made the impossible possible, and so it's great news for the President, for the United States, for our allies, and also for peace in the Middle East. And I understand that more than 20 new additional countries have also signed up to join the newly established Board of Peace with respect to the rebuilding of Gaza, which is another historic accomplishment for this president. So thank you all very much, and we'll see you in Iowa tomorrow.
Something I want to share with y'all. She wasn't here long, but let me share this with y'all. This is one of the apps that they're using to track ICE agents. The crowd. Sorry, I'm gonna kill that music. You see this? Using the facial recognition technology. This is why they wear masks. This is why they wear masks. This isn't a joke. This is why they wear masks. And these type of apps, they need to show this when they talk all that stuff in Congress or whatnot. Like, they need to show that. Like, this is why they wear masks. But let me show you what type of reporter our California cutie Kara is.
Joan, how are you today?
Oh, I'm great.
What happened in there?
What are you talking about?
That confrontation.
Jack Smith testified about how he had proof beyond a reasonable doubt that Donald Trump incited, orchestrated, and funded the insurrection at the Capitol on January 6, 2021.
It seemed like there was a fight in there.
No, there was no fight.
Is it true, Officer Fanone, that you turned off your own body camera on January 6th?
No.
I saw your body cam. You turned it off yourself. You were playing dead. I saw your body cam footage.
You're a fucking
What am I?
right-wing conspiracy theorist.
I saw you turn off your body cam footage, sir. But thank you for disrespecting me. Psychopath.
You understand? This chick is a champion boxer. She beat your ass.
Thank you for disrespecting me.
I know he think he tough. But this chick will drop that mic and she'll go toe to toe with him real quick. I mean, I'm not saying she'll win, but he'll know that he was in a fight. I was surprised to find out she was a champion boxer. Like, oh my God. All right, so let's get on to, because you know, he one of those dudes. That's the dude that jumped up in that congressman's face during the January 6th hearings with the Jack Smith hearing. Yeah, he turned off his body cam and he played dead. We already know the story about him from 4 or 5 years ago. You're a coward. But let's fast forward. This is one of the concessions that Trump wanted from Tim Walz.
In the meantime, though, as we are watching that, I want to get to this story because we have Secretary of State Steve Simon on the line right now. So U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi, she issued a letter to Governor Tim Walz over the weekend with 3 requests. So she wants Minnesota to share all of Minnesota's records on Medicaid and food programs. And this is including SNAP data. She also has asked for sanctuary policies to be repealed, saying that all detention facilities in your state should cooperate fully with ICE. And she wants the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division to get access to the state's voter rolls to, quote, confirm that Minnesota's voter registration practices comply with federal law. So Minnesota Secretary of State Steve Simon releasing a statement saying the answer to Attorney General Pam Bondi's request is no. Her letter is an outrageous attempt to coerce Minnesota into giving the federal government private data on millions of U.S. citizens in violation of state and federal law. This comes after repeated and failed attempts by the DOJ to pressure my office into providing the same data.
They're the federal government. They're the federal government. You're talking about the IRS, you know what I'm saying? Immigration, voting. They're in charge of all of that. They're in charge of you. They're in charge of Minnesota. When they jump, you don't ask how high, you do it. But now you're scared shitless because, I mean, when Nick Shirley did his video and when he went into inside the Minnesota legislators, he went to go talk to them. They were acting like what he was doing was illegal. They were actually, they're so anti-Trump in their government that they are fully corrupt. Remember when that woman, the congresswoman or whatever, the lawmaker got shot, her and her husband and the dog, and the dude shot 2 other Minnesota lawmakers. They shot her because she voted no. The dude had a hit list. Tim Walz, he implicated Tim Walz in a letter to Kash Patel in case he didn't get out alive because, or take his life, but he was too cowardly to do it for himself. Yeah, the corruption starts with Tim Walz and ends with the citizens on the street. That whole government, their whole government is corrupt. The DOJ is not working hard enough. Well, they're not working fast. I don't even know if they're working hard enough, but they're not working fast enough.
So a lot of questions swirling around now about this request and, of course, its legality as well. So joining us now to discuss this, the Secretary of State himself, Steve Simon. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. We appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so as we begin to talk about the three potential solutions that U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi mentions in this letter, she specifically calls them common sense solutions. What do you have to say about that comment? And also, can you talk about the significance and what she is asking to have access to at this point?
Yeah, well, this request is bizarre and disturbing. Bizarre because it has nothing to do with the facts on the ground. It has nothing to do with security, public safety, immigration, ICE, anything. So it's puzzling and I would say bizarre that this is being tacked on as one of the sort of implied conditions to giving us our peace and security back. But it's also disturbing because the Attorney General well knows, and I think a lot of your viewers know, that we are right now in active litigation on this very question. It is in court, which is where it belongs. We have a different view on the law. They have requested this very same data, which is personal, private data on millions of Minnesotans, driver's license numbers, social security numbers, etc. And we are one of 32 states that have said, no, we're not going to give that to you because the law, both state and federal law, does not give them the right to obtain this data. So we're battling it out.
Actually, it does. Actually, it does. Especially when you're investigating fraud. Not only are they going to cut off the money, but Kash Patel and his team are already down there in Minnesota, ready to go through your books. Because you got to start at the top. One team starts at the top, the other team starts at the bottom. I'll take the high road, you'll take the low road. And I'll get to the middle before ye. Whatever. You meet in the middle. You meet where you meet. What did you find? Well, we found this. Well, what did you find? Well, we found this. Oh. And then they play connect the dots with the paperwork and the money trail. Blockchain. The hell you mean? We're not turning over anything. Okay.
In court, that's what we do. We don't battle it out in the streets. We battle it out in a court of law, and she knows that. So that's why I say it's both bizarre and disturbing. She knows that this is an active court case right now.
Have you had any contact with her or her office?
Not since we put out our response, and I don't know whether there will be a response to that response, but we're going to move ahead. I think in only about 5 weeks, we have a hearing in court on this very issue. I should point out to your viewers that the Department of Justice is 0-3 in 3 different states, Oregon, California, and Georgia. The courts have agreed with our legal position and the states in those cases, which is that they don't have a right to that very personal, sensitive information on voters. So
that was back
I don't know why this was attached to this letter, kind of out of the blue. It certainly took us by surprise, but we are standing firm, protecting the privacy of our voters, consistent, I should add, with state and federal law.
With that being said, Secretary, would there be anything that you would be willing to share?
Yeah, absolutely. We have repeatedly been willing to share all the data that's public that you and I and your viewers could get. Names, addresses, voting history, meaning what elections people vote in, year of birth, things like that. But the law, not me, the law draws a line between that stuff, which is publicly and readily available, and very personal sensitive data like social security numbers and driver's licenses. That's a different issue, and that's why 32 states out of the 42 states they've asked for this information from have said no, and so far, all of them that have challenged it in court have won.
I want to talk about one of the statements in this letter. I wanted to read this specifically because one line in it, and I just wanted to get your reaction to it. So one line says that criminal aliens, illegal aliens, convicted of homicide, drug trafficking, sexual assault, against child rape with a weapon and other horrific crimes are now off the streets because of Operation Metro Surge. Unfortunately, you and other Minnesota officials, of course, this is the letter to Tim Walz, you and other Minnesota officials have refused to support the men and women risking their lives to protect Americans and uphold the rule of law. What do you have to say to that comment specifically?
Well, two things can be true at once. It may be that ICE has nabbed and apprehended some people who fit into those categories. But what's also true, and what people are seeing and hearing and feeling and sensing and using their common sense to observe, is that the tactics go way beyond that. This is
like what? Because everything we've seen has turned out to be true. The one guy that I guess he's going to bring up, the guy that was in the shower, because when they raided the house with the guy that was in the shower, they were going after 2 sex offenders who were there in the house. 2 sex offenders. The third guy, the one, he was in the shower. When they raided the house, they pulled him out. They let him put some shorts and some shoes on, threw a blanket over him or a shirt, walked into the car till they were able to figure it out. He was detained. Once they realized that he was clean, they marched him back into his house. Because that's what all law enforcement do. When they do a raid, be it 2 people or 20 people, everybody gets detained. Everybody gets checked out just in case you got any warrants or anything. And once you clean, they let you go. Same thing that happened in Chicago. It's just standard police procedure. But they want to make it out to be a big deal.
Not, and never has been, just about getting a bunch of people who are on a list of the worst of the worst. They're in Target, they're in Costco, they're in libraries, they're in schools, they're in gas stations, they're harassing people at the airport in the Uber line.
Illegal is illegal.
A list of the worst of the worst. This has now grown into something far bigger, far more sweeping, with tactics, actual day-to-day tactics that seem too often designed more to instill fear in communities than to actually improve public safety. So that's where we are right now. We have.
If you're not illegal, what you scared of? I ain't scared. I had somebody, when I was talking about the black dudes earlier, that was somehow at the video game expo, whatever. Well, they might come after us next. I'm like, why would they come after us? We're American citizens. Who told you that they're coming after us next? CNN, right? Jasmine Crockett. Who's the world? Joy Reid? Is that who y'all listening to? They didn't say nothing. Like, I swear, man, y'all are.
This disagreement. I should point out, breaking news that maybe you already covered, it does appear that Governor Walz and President Trump have talked this morning on the phone. I think all of us think that's a welcome development. The more talking, the more perhaps negotiating, the better, and maybe we can find ourselves out of what is a very, very tense situation. I think ICE needs to stand down. They need to revisit their tactics. And what they're doing right now is a siege in Minnesota and is way beyond the stated mission. 2 people have been killed, for God's sake.
Yeah, we know the governor and the president both say that they had a good, productive conversation. And I think that's where a lot of people are at this point. A lot of community members are like, can we just get to one point where we agree? Politics aside, of course, politics plays in a lot of factors here all of the time. But I think a lot of community members are frustrated by what they are seeing on both ends of the aisle here. Are you willing to have any conversations? Just as we mentioned, Walz had a conversation with the president this morning. Are you willing to, maybe get on the phone and have productive conversations as well?
Absolutely, and always. No question about that. Always open to that. And we have, our office and the Department of Justice before this statement have been having a lot of conversations, both in court, obviously, but off the record and behind the scenes as well, which is why this was a particular surprise. We didn't have any inkling that this kind of thing would be coming, that this would be a bargaining chip in the ICE surge in Minnesota. That was never communicated to us. So that was a surprise. But yes, absolutely. I think dialogue and discussion is always good, and trying to search out for that common ground.
Again, why would they tell y'all anything when you have? Remember, I showed y'all that not Nick Shirley, but the guy Cam Higbee was showing the ICE app where they were tracking the federal agents and everything. One of the people one of the legislators in Minnesota runs that app. She's one of the people that's in charge of that app. That's how corrupt it is. This is why y'all didn't call me. Why would we call you? You're snitches. Why would we tell a snitch what we doing?
But this is a particularly frustrating situation. And to have us in our office and Minnesota's elections and our voters and their privacy brought into it is just really outrageous and uncalled for. It has nothing to do with what's going on the ground. And again, it's an active court case right now. And we'll see how it shakes out.
All right. Did you want to add anything else before we want to get to Karoline Leavitt at the White House? But I just wanted to give you the floor just in case you wanted to make any further comments.
I would just say that this feels like a heavy and grim time for Minnesota, but I am really proud of how the vast majority of Minnesotans have handled this in terms of peacefully and lawfully protesting, making sure that their voices are heard and expressing their outrage, by and large, towards the tactics that they're seeing out there that are used all too often by ICE officers in an operation that has gone way, way above and beyond, has gone completely off the rails and out of control.
All right, Minnesota.
Not one incident. You notice he didn't notice list not one incident. The only thing you can do is talk about Renee Good and this Alex Goofy who caused their own deaths. You hit an ICE agent, a federal officer with your car, and he popped you. You got into a fight with federal officers while carrying a cheap, faulty triggered firearm, and they shot you. You tried to grab a flash grenade, and it blew your hand off. There's nothing peaceful about those protesters whatsoever. Now, we could probably get into what Kristi Noem had to say, or we can jump to Greg Bovino. Let me see here. We don't have much time. Let's see here. Matter of fact, let's get into Homan. Let's get into Tom Homan, because he's in charge.
That major shift is apparently happening, and some clarification, because this is a very fluid, a very dynamic situation right now, but we are learning new information about exactly what that pullback looks like. This, a post on social media from our Fox News team, Bill Maluzhin, talking about multiple federal sources confirmed to Fox News that Border Patrol Commander Greg Bovino and some, not all of the Border Patrol agents will be leaving the state imminently, and we'll see exactly what that means. We heard in court earlier on today that there were some 3,000 federal agents involved in this immigration crackdown, 2,000 on the Border Patrol side, 1,000 on the ICE, the other way around, 2,000 on the ICE side, 1,000 on the Border Patrol side. Let's continue our conversation right now here on Live Now and bring into Wall Street Journal immigration reporter Michelle Hackman. Michelle, thank you so much for joining us here on Live Now from Fox. Obviously, this is just breaking. This is just happening as we speak, but the pullback appears to be happening. What do you know? What are we learning at this hour?
Yeah, it seems to be a really deliberate, almost U-turn, a de-escalation of what's been going on in Minneapolis. I've been speaking to a lot of people inside and close to the administration, and it seems like this second shooting has really hit people a lot harder than the first one, that they're feeling like, oh gosh, this is really on us. This is too much. I've been hearing reports that the president has been expressing those views, that this has become too much for him. He's seen the polling. And so that's how I'm reading all these steps. I mean, they've asked Bovino to head out, to leave imminently with many of his agents. We don't know precisely how many are leaving Minnesota, but he's also asked Tom Homan, who, sort of has a different approach to these things. Tom Homan is someone who likes to work more methodically. He doesn't like the sort of approach of these huge roving patrols doing street sweeps. The
Yeah,
way they've been
we
doing.
didn't have cameras.
Yeah, that's
but
a
they-
very good point. And obviously, leaving and 3,000 federal agents removed, that might not be the goal, because we heard from Amy Klobuchar, we've heard from Minnesota Governor Tim Walz that they still want immigration enforcement on the ground, but they want it done responsibly and held accountable for that way. What exactly, how?
Look, when Greg Bovino shows up, he shows up with a squad. He's not coming by himself. Just like Tom Homan, he doesn't show up by himself. He come with a squad. So now that Homan is showing up, Bovino and his squad are pulling out. They're pulling out. His squad, they're pulling out. They're heading towards another city. Like, look, go handle this. Let me go handle that. So them thinking that, oh my God, they're pulling the agents out because it's just too much. No, like they're just replacing one squad with another. Holman will now oversee all of this. He'll be directly responsible for the tactics that ICE is using out there. Because, I mean, let's be honest, it's getting out of hand because of these paid agitators. It's getting out of hand and more people are going to get hurt. More people are going, you got 2 ICE agents get their fingers bitten off. If that's not grounds for blowing somebody's brains out, I don't know what is. And then they attacked the hotel. They had an ICE agent standing out there with the long gun, protecting the doors of protecting the hotel. Are you kidding me? That's an insurrection. But I repeat for the 50-11th time, if you would have been busting shots when the California insurrection happened, you wouldn't be here right now, because people would know that ICE does not play around. That healthy respect for law enforcement would have been restored. But now you're in a situation now where people can now play victim, even though, you know, they throw their rocks. And then when you bust them upside the head for throwing the rock, oh, I'm a victim. You let it get to this point when you should have nipped it in the bud. You should have nipped it in the bud last year, but I digress.
Limited, and how much of a pullback could there be?
You know, we don't totally know yet, but 3,000 agents is really an unprecedented number. I just want to give your viewers an idea. You know, in Chicago, when we saw this huge deployment, that was 300 Border Patrol. And by the way, that's a city of about 2.5 million people. This is a city a fifth of that size, and there are 3,000 agents sort of roaming the streets here.
Yeah, that is a very good point in terms of that. Let's get back to the other news that we learned this morning from the White House, from President Trump, that Border Czar Tom Homan would be taking over the commands there of ICE, Border Patrol in that region. In terms of what he brings to this, what is this shift? What does this move suggest from President Trump?
Again, this definitely suggests a course correction. There has been a long, ongoing battle inside the administration between Tom Homan and Kristi Noem, the Homeland Security Secretary. What we've seen in Minnesota and places like Chicago and Los Angeles were her vision of what immigration enforcement should look like. A little chaotic, very public, flashy. Tom Homan, again, has been the voice in the administration arguing that ICE should really be focused on immigrants with a criminal history, people with final orders of removals. He's been advocating a sort of more methodical, but in some people's view, a slower approach to enforcement that until now was disfavored. And it seems like things are sort of changing.
And you mentioned Kristi Noem, the Department of Homeland Security Secretary. What is her standing right now? She's come out and obviously defended Border Patrol after that shooting, the fatal one of Alex Preddy. Where does she stand with the president?
You know, it's not totally clear to us how the president views her at this moment. He has been supportive of her in the past. We have seen Republicans breaking ranks in Congress, more Republicans. You know, we had James Comer, the head of the Oversight Committee, calling for DHS to leave Minnesota. We have seen other Republicans saying, We want to hear, senior leaders from DHS coming to testify. Those are signs that Republicans are breaking ranks and are not totally supportive of the administration.
Yeah, and obviously some things still might be able to change, but this also comes after President Trump spoke with Minnesota Governor Tim Walz earlier on today. They said they had a productive call. This is the Post from social media. Tim Walz called me with the request to work together to respect Minnesota. We are looking for any and all criminals that they have in their possession, and obviously characterized as this. I said there was going to be an impartial investigation into that shooting, the deadly one of Alex Preddy. How much is this a step forward, a shifting of the temperature, a cooling of the temperature to have these two individuals together? Because we've seen Minnesota officials before speak to members of the administration. Did this conversation cool temperatures?
Yeah, I mean, you have to think about what came before this. I mean, Trump basically sent these agents to Minnesota to punish Tim Walz, to punish him for this massive welfare scandal that's been happening in his state under his watch. Trump essentially ended Tim Walz's career. I mean, first of all, he beat him in the 2024 election. He essentially forced him to quit running for re-election in his own state. And so the fact that now Trump is sort of being conciliatory to Tim Walz and giving him conditions that are sort of eminently meetable conditions to do a drawdown of agents there seems like a changing course.
Yeah, that's a very good context, because it was just over a year ago that they were facing off in this race for the White House. You mentioned some of the kind of nature, the sentiment for Republicans. We had a GOP gubernatorial candidate, Chris Mandel, drop out of the race based on the fact of what happened over the weekend. Are we seeing that? Is that going to continue the trend amongst other members of the GOP, questioning and potentially trying to hold some of these accountable? Have we seen that sentiment shift already, and will it continue?
That was a pretty extreme case. That was a candidate who was running as a Republican and said he just couldn't stand for what was going on. I don't think we've seen anything quite like that. But you have Kevin Stitt, who's the Republican governor of Oklahoma, the head of the Republican Governors Association, coming out yesterday and saying the president's being given bad advice. I think you're seeing more and more people say things like that they really want to change in course because people are afraid for the midterms.
I'm gonna leave this chick alone because her information, as we know, her information is bad. Oh, we know her information is bad. All right, y'all. I'm gonna leave it here. But do y'all want to hear what let's hear what Greg Bavino had to say. Then we'll call it a day. Come on. There we go. All right. Yeah, okay. 20 minutes of him. All right, let's go, Greg. There we go. All right. Oh, sorry. Smacking the mic.
Bavino, Commander at Large for CBP Assets here in Minneapolis. I'd like to take a few moments here before we take questions and before I hear from my colleague, Mr. Marcos Charles, to talk about a subject that I think is very important given the events over the past couple of days. And that topic is the topic of choices. Choices. Now, choosing or making a choice is one of the only true freedoms that any of us really have, is to make a choice. Whether that's the choice to be here today as the media, the choice to go to school, join the military, join law enforcement. Making a choice is a freedom that resides within us. Now, good choices are important in life, as we all know. And many actions that take place are due to our choices. The choice to, say, cross the border illegally, that is a choice that someone makes. To cross the border illegally, that's a choice. The choice not to utilize the CBP Home app, that's a choice. Not standing in line and doing it the right way, that is a choice, and there are always actions that result from our choices. When you choose to use your 5-year-old child as a shield to evade law enforcement, that is a choice that someone makes, and there are actions and consequences that result from that choice. Or when you're a politician or a community leader, you make a lot of choices there, some very important, wide-ranging, and in-depth choices. When, as a politician, if you choose collusion and corruption as a choice, then there are consequences and actions that take place because of that.
Well, can we see
That's
it?
one reason the U.S. Border Patrol and ICE are here in Minneapolis by the thousands, is because of those choices. When politicians, community leaders, and some journalists engage in that heated rhetoric we keep talking about, when they make the choice to vilify law enforcement, calling law enforcement names like Gestapo, or using the term kidnapping, that is a choice that is made. There are actions and consequences that come from those choices. And then when you choose,
coming from me,
when someone chooses to listen to a politician, a so-called journalist, a community leader that spouted that type of vilification towards law enforcement or anything else, when you choose to listen to that, that is a choice, and there are consequences and actions there also. I think we saw that yesterday. And those actions and choices can obviously have tragic consequences, bad outcomes, outcomes that law enforcement never wants to see. Law enforcement never wants to see a bad consequence due to a poor choice. Now, these choices have reverberations throughout society. Let's take a look at, go ahead and put that on the screen, please. Yesterday, Border Patrol agents were engaged in a targeted law enforcement effort to apprehend this individual here, Mr. Jose Huerta Chuma. Look at his criminal record: domestic assault, intentional infliction of bodily harm, disorderly conduct. He's also got some other records there as well. This individual remains at large today. This individual is still roaming the streets today. This is the individual on that targeted law enforcement efforts that Border Patrol agents were engaged in yesterday, when they were disrupted, assaulted, and prevented from conducting that Title VIII mission by individuals intent on making the choice to riot, to create anarchy, and to be a violent mob. This individual walks the streets today because of those choices made by politicians and those perhaps weaker-minded constituents that chose to follow directions of those politicians. Sad state of affairs. Now, enforcing the law is not a choice. I choose to be a Border Patrol agent. Mr. Marcos Charles chooses to be an ICE agent, but enforcing the law, that's not a choice. That is a duty. As we all know, those laws were enacted by Congress, signed by the executive, and upheld most of the time by the judiciary. Those are the laws of our land. That is our duty to enforce those laws, whether that's a Title VIII immigration law, whether that's chasing a bank robber or a spy or whatever else. That is our duty, whether it's a state and local law enforcement agency, and they make choices also. Do they support federal law enforcement going after Mr. Jose Huerta Chuma, or do they not? We all make choices. Our Title VIII immigration mission continues. Next slide. Our Title VIII immigration mission continues unabated here in Minneapolis, despite yesterday's tragedy that was preventable by folks making better choices, politicians, journalists, and would-be anarchists and rioters. This individual from Laos was apprehended within the past 24 hours. This operation continues unabated. This is evidence of that. We will continue to make these streets a safer place. It is our duty, because we choose to be Border Patrol agents and ICE agents, to take individuals like that off the streets so we can make Minneapolis and America a safer place. Thank you.
By the way, was in federal immigration
Hold on
custody.
questions until the end. Mr. Marcos Charles will talk and we'll take questions at the end. Ma'am. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I know Commander Bovino spoke about yesterday's incident and the situation, but I also want to draw your attention to the continued uptick in violence we're seeing against federal law enforcement officials, not just here, but across the country. Yesterday, here in Minneapolis, a crowd of violent agitators tackled an ICE special agent when one of our special response teams went to assist. A protester literally bit off part of that agent's finger. The officer received immediate medical attention on the scene and was transported to the emergency room for treatment. We do want to thank the people at the hospital for the assistance and the staff who treated our officer. The officer is recovering, but is now permanently maimed and has lost part of his finger. I don't think I have to tell you that this kind of violence is unacceptable, but I also don't think I need to tell you that this kind of violence is not a coincidence. When sanctuary politicians, activists, and the media work hard to create chaos and fear instead of using their platforms to reassure their communities, this is the result. The reality is, and this is what Commander Bovino and I have been talking about all week, we're out here to arrest dangerous criminal illegal aliens so they can't victimize innocent people in our communities anymore. Since the beginning of this operation, we've arrested over 3,400 illegal aliens, removing criminals, gang members, and terrorists out of Minnesota communities, detaining them in ICE custody for removal from the country. Those are criminals who won't reoffend in our communities. Those are criminals who won't be creating more victims that could be one of your family members or loved ones. Some of these criminals that we arrested yesterday are on the scene, well, these are our agitators from yesterday, if anybody wants to take a picture of these people or haven't seen them yet. The first picture was the individual who decided to bite off one of our agents' fingers. Some of the criminals we arrested yesterday: 40-year-old criminal illegal alien from Honduras convicted of assault. A 51-year-old criminal illegal alien from Laos convicted of assault also. A 45-year-old criminal illegal alien from the Ukraine convicted of first-degree robbery. And a 46-year-old criminal illegal alien from Laos who was convicted of facilitating child sex crime.
Come on, monitor guy, keep up.
ICE officers and agents are out there every day arresting the worst of the worst, so law-abiding citizens in this country and in Minnesota can sleep easy at night. This work isn't about headlines, it's about public safety. We can now take some questions.
Commander Rubino.
Previously in federal immigration custody in 2018 at a jail in Minnesota, and then was released under the Trump administration again in 2018. You talk about choice. That was also a choice to release this individual, the man that you were targeting, obviously, to detain him. So if he was released in 2018 from some federal immigration custody, why would that be the case? Why was that choice made?
Yeah, I don't know the particular case in 2018 that you're talking about, but this individual that we want to put that back up there, please. That individual is now an illegal alien. It's my mission to find this illegal alien before he harms another American citizen and does harm. That's what I'm after there. And yet we can go back and look and blame in history. Right now, my mission is to take this individual off the street. And the main point here being is this individual is in the process of being taken into custody. Agitators, rioters, and anarchists prevented us from taking this individual into custody because of a very, very chaotic scene. This individual should be in custody right now, not out on the streets preying on Americans. That is the story that is most poignant here.
Multiple videos of different angles of the shooting from yesterday, and at no point is he seen brandishing.
I'm sorry, repeat that, please.
We have seen multiple videos from the incident yesterday from different angles, and at no point do we see Alex Preddy brandishing a weapon. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem said that he was brandishing a weapon, and in the video we see
Jesus, Christopher.
see him on the ground with his hands on his head. We see an officer leaving what it appears to be with the weapon after he extracted it from Preddy's waist area. Did the officers see the weapon? Did they see him brandishing the weapon at him?
Sure. Many videos out there, many different accounts that you may see, that I may see, that anybody here may see. That, folks, is why we have something called an investigation, to take what you're talking about, to take those videos, to take witness statements, to take officer statements, all those minute details that will paint a true picture, not a freeze frame concept, and paint a larger picture of what really happened. That is why we investigate, so we can get to the truth, so there's not speculation. Speculation after 24 hours, you've got a lot of speculation in there. That officer, let's think of what those agents were doing on that scene, making a split-second decision. You've had 24 hours to try and armchair quarterback things. That agent had a split second to make a decision.
Commander Rubino, between your agency and Commander
It's
Rubino.
not speculation.
Who's next?
Commander, was Alex Preddy armed when he was shot?
Again, the investigation is going to uncover all those facts, things like how many shots were fired, where were the weapons located. All those facts are going to come out in the investigation. I wasn't there wrestling that assaultive subject that was assaulting Border Patrol agents. I wasn't there wrestling him myself, so I'm not going to speculate. I'm going to wait for that investigation to come. No, don't interrupt me. I'm going to wait till that investigation comes out until I make a decision there.
If there's an investigation going on and you have not concluded, isn't it possible this was a bad shooting? Or have you already concluded for yourself that this was justified?
I've not concluded anything. I've not given you a conclusion, but what I do know, is this individual was on that scene several minutes before that shooting, interfering with a lawful, legal, ethical law enforcement operation to arrest Jose Huerta Chuma. And again, it's back to choices. We just talked about choices. When someone makes the choice to come into an active law enforcement scene, interfere, obstruct, delay, or assault law enforcement officers, and
all right, let's get out of here. I got to make my clips. I will catch y'all later. But y'all know the truth.
No, gentlemen, Mr. Butler's been up north, I hear. Don't you agree with this, Mr. Butler? I think it's hard winning a war with words, gentlemen. What do you mean, sir? I mean, Mr. Hamilton, there's not a cannon factory in the whole South. What difference does that make, sir, to a gentleman? I'm afraid it's going to make a great deal of difference to a great many gentlemen, sir.
Are you hinting, Mr. Butler, that the Yankees can lick us?
No, I'm not hinting. I'm saying very plainly that the Yankees are better equipped than we. They've got factories, shipyards, coal mines, and a fleet to bottle up our harbors and starve us to death. All we've got is cotton and slaves and arrogance.
That's treachery! A problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
Right, hi! Thanks for the fun!
Get the fuck